The snow gently fell outside the luxurious New York City hotel, turning the streets into a glittering winter wonderland. Inside the lobby, holiday lights twinkled over the polished floors, and the scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air. Victoria Sanders, a 40-year-old CEO, held her daughter Emma's hand tightly. Emma, 8 years old and deaf, gazed around the bustling hotel with curiosity and slight apprehension. The holiday gala promised elegance, music, and laughter, but Victoria worried about how her daughter would manage in a room full of strangers. Tonight, she wanted Emma to feel included and safe. Meanwhile, behind the buffet and dessert station, Luke Miller, a 38-year-old single dad, carefully arranged the holiday pastries. His son, Mason, 7 years old, stood nearby, helping him gently place gingerbread houses. Luke had volunteered to assist with families who had hearing-impaired children, knowing how intimidating such events could feel. He signed instructions and playful messages to Mason, whose bright eyes sparkled with excitement. Luke adjusted the table decorations, making sure everything looked perfect. He was unaware that a particular little girl would soon notice his skill in sign language, creating a moment of connection that would change the evening. As Victoria led Emma toward their reserved table, Emma's gaze wandered across the room. She noticed Luke and Mason laughing silently while arranging the gingerbread display. Their hands moved quickly, signing to one another with fluid motions that Emma immediately recognized. She paused, intrigued, and slowly raised her hand to wave. Luke noticed immediately, a warm smile spreading across his face. He signed back a friendly greeting, and Emma's eyes lit up. Victoria, following her daughter's gaze, realized something magical was happening. Emma was connecting with someone outside of her familiar world. Victoria approached cautiously, unsure of how the interaction would continue. Emma stepped forward shyly, signing short words she knew. Luke responded with exaggerated, playful gestures, making sure she understood each sign and could respond comfortably. Mason giggled beside her, copying their gestures. The other parents and guests nearby paused to watch quietly, impressed by the effortless communication. Emma's face broke into a wide, genuine smile. For the first time that evening, Victoria felt her daughter was truly engaged, confident, and enjoying the festivities. The magic of the season had already begun to unfold. The gala continued around them, but Emma remained focused on Luke and Mason. They introduced her to small, fun signs, explaining the desserts and decorations with gentle humor. Victoria stood back, watching silently, her heart swelling with gratitude. She realized that sometimes inclusion doesn't come from accommodations or instructions, but from the simple act of a kind, empathetic person taking the time to communicate. Emma's laughter, silent yet expressive, filled the small circle they created. The cold winter night outside contrasted with the warmth growing at their table, where human connection spoke louder than words ever could. As the Christmas dinner began, Victoria and Emma were seated near Luke and Mason, their small group forming an island of warmth amidst the elegant chaos. Luke continued signing to Emma, teaching her playful holiday phrases and pointing out the desserts on the table. Mason laughed quietly, mimicking the signs. Emma's confidence grew with each movement, her hands flying smoothly as she communicated effortlessly. Victoria watched quietly, amazed at how her daughter's face lit up. She had never seen Emma so engaged in a social setting. The gala, once intimidating, had transformed into a place of joy and inclusion. Other guests began to notice the unique interaction. Parents whispered to each other, fascinated by the seamless communication between the children and Luke. Victoria introduced Luke to a few nearby families, explaining how he helped children like Emma during holiday events. Luke remained humble, smiling gently and responding with graceful, fluid signs. Emma continued to laugh silently, signing jokes and simple phrases that made Mason giggle in response. The room, filled with music and chatter, felt quieter in their corner, as if the world had paused to witness the special bond forming through gestures, smiles, and understanding. Luke guided Emma through explaining the desserts on the buffet table, using exaggerated hand movements that made her giggle uncontrollably. Victoria tried to join in, learning signs along the way, and found herself laughing at the innocent humor shared between the children. The atmosphere at their table became magical, as if the holiday lights shone brighter just for them. Emma's smile never faded, and Victoria realized that the evening had given her daughter more than a fancy dinner. It had given her connection, confidence, and the realization that she could communicate naturally with people who cared to understand her world. By the end of the dinner, Emma and Mason were signing stories to each other, completely absorbed in their own silent conversation. Luke and Victoria exchanged smiles, silently acknowledging the joy that had unfolded. Parents and other guests had started to approach, curious and inspired by the effortless inclusion they witnessed. Victoria felt a wave of gratitude for Luke's kindness and patience, recognizing that the true gift of Christmas wasn't decorations or music, but human connection and empathy. Her daughter's laughter and engagement had transformed what could have been a lonely evening into a memory they would cherish forever. As the gala ended, Luke and Mason waved goodbye to Victoria and Emma. Emma signed quickly, "See you soon," and Luke replied with a warm, exaggerated wave. Victoria knelt beside her daughter, signing softly, "Did you enjoy tonight?" Emma nodded vigorously, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Walking out into the snowy night, Victoria held Emma close, grateful for Luke, a single dad whose knowledge and kindness had created a bridge between her daughter and the world. The night had shown her that empathy and patience could make even the grandest, most intimidating events feel safe and joyful. Weeks after the gala, Victoria noticed a remarkable change in Emma. The confidence her daughter had gained that night had not faded. She now signed effortlessly to friends and even approached new situations without hesitation. At school, Emma began participating in small group activities, her laughter filling the room. Victoria marveled at the transformation. She realized that the connection made with Luke and Mason during the Christmas dinner had given her daughter something far greater than gifts or decorations, a sense of belonging and the knowledge that her voice, silent though it was, mattered. Luke continued to volunteer for similar holiday events, quietly teaching children and parents how to communicate using sign language. Mason loved helping, often practicing new signs with Emma over video calls. The three of them had formed a special bond, bridging gaps between families with hearing-impaired children. Victoria often reflected on the night, remembering how Luke's patience and empathy had opened a door for Emma. It wasn't just about language, it was about understanding, inclusion, and the joy that comes from being seen and heard, even in silence. During a follow-up Christmas gala the next year, Victoria invited Luke and Mason to attend as her guests. Emma ran to them immediately, signing excitedly and laughing uncontrollably. The moment was pure joy. Guests around them watched, impressed by the seamless interaction. Victoria noticed parents whispering to each other, inspired to try sign language with their own children. Luke, ever humble, simply smiled, guiding Emma through playful gestures while Mason mirrored her movements. The three of them became a quiet example of compassion in action, showing that inclusion and empathy could transform even the most formal, intimidating settings. Victoria felt a profound sense of gratitude. She realized that the true magic of the holidays didn't come from elaborate dinners, sparkling lights, or gifts. It came from connection, understanding, and shared joy. Emma's laughter and the ease with which she communicated were gifts she would carry for life. Victoria knew that Luke's kindness had created a ripple effect, not just for her daughter, but for every child and parent who witnessed their interactions. That evening, surrounded by festive cheer, she understood the most important lesson: empathy and patience can bridge worlds. By the end of the evening, Emma had signed countless small stories to Luke and Mason, each one punctuated with laughter and smiles. Victoria knelt beside her daughter, signing softly, "I'm proud of you." Emma hugged her mother and waved goodbye to Luke and Mason, promising to see them again. Victoria walked out of the gala with her daughter, her heart full. That Christmas had been unforgettable, not for the grandeur of the event, but for the gift of connection. Luke's knowledge of sign language had created joy, inclusion, and lasting friendship, reminding Victoria that true magic lies in understanding and kindness. The months following the Christmas gala were filled with small, joyful moments that Victoria cherished. Emma had grown more confident in her school, signing effortlessly to teachers and classmates. Victoria often watched her daughter practice new signs with Mason over video calls, her heart swelling with pride. Luke continued volunteering for holiday events, helping children and parents alike learn sign language in playful and engaging ways. Victoria realized that the connections formed that evening had lasting effects, creating an invisible bridge of empathy and understanding that extended beyond the gala, touching many lives quietly and profoundly. One chilly evening, Victoria brought Emma to the hotel lobby where the first magical encounter had taken place. Luke and Mason were already there, arranging holiday decorations. Emma ran to them, her laughter ringing through the spacious room. The children exchanged greetings in sign language, their hands flying quickly with playful gestures and storytelling. Victoria watched, silently grateful, realizing how transformative these connections had been for her daughter. Luke smiled warmly, and Mason mimicked Emma's movements. The atmosphere was filled with warmth, friendship, and holiday cheer, a stark contrast to the bustling, impersonal gala she had feared months earlier. Victoria took a seat nearby, joining in as Luke playfully signed about the desserts and decorations. Emma giggled uncontrollably at the exaggerated gestures, signing jokes back to Mason. Other parents noticed, quietly observing the joy and inclusion unfolding in real time. Victoria understood that the true gift of Christmas wasn't in the lights or music, but in these moments of connection. Emma's confidence and laughter were tangible proof that patience, empathy, and understanding could create joy and inclusion, where once there had been apprehension and fear. By the end of the evening, Emma had shared countless stories with Luke and Mason, each interaction punctuated with smiles and laughter. Victoria knelt beside her daughter, signing softly, "Did you enjoy tonight?" Emma nodded enthusiastically, her eyes shining with happiness. Victoria's heart was full as she realized how much her daughter had grown, both socially and emotionally. Luke's simple act of sharing his knowledge of sign language had transformed a formal, intimidating event into a space of belonging and joy, leaving lasting impressions on everyone present. As they left the hotel that night, Victoria held Emma's hand tightly, glancing back at Luke and Mason waving from the lobby. The snow fell softly, and the glow of the holiday lights reflected the warmth of the evening. Victoria felt immense gratitude for the single dad whose empathy had changed her daughter's experience. Emma's smile remained bright, a reminder that true magic wasn't in decorations or gifts, but in understanding, connection, and the kindness of strangers willing to meet her world halfway. It was a Christmas neither mother nor daughter would ever forget.